Let's talk about one of the best parts of the editing process, and that is color. Color grading can be one of the most intimidating things you do within the editing process. Editing softwares are really intimidating, and especially for me, like going into Davinci Resolve, which is my editor of choice, and seeing all the color wheels, seeing all the nodes, seeing all those things, the learning curve is steep, and it really takes a lot of time to figure out how all of this works together to create a beautiful image. So this is where Dehancer Pro comes in. I've been using Dehancer Pro for about 3 weeks now. It's a plugin for Davinci Resolve, Premiere, and Final Cut. I'm using it for Davinci Resolve, and I found it a lot easier to grade a lot of my imagery. What's nice about Dehancer Pro is that it focuses on what film looks like. This is the closest plugin I've had that has been able to make my footage look like the film recipes that I'm spitting out of my Fuji X-T3. And for me, that's something I really want to bring into film, is trying to get that filmic look. The cameras we use these days, like I have the FX3 on here with the 16-35 f2.8, and these cameras are amazing, but they spit out a real sharp image. And to basically make it more film-like, the best thing to do is to soften up the image. So I am by no means a colorist, but I do like to take my time and grade my footage the way I have envisioned it to be. And I like to take my time doing that, and I think it takes a lot of learning. But Dehancer Pro has made it a little bit easier to grade my footage just a little bit faster and have more of a film look to all of my footage. So when we talk about A-roll and we talk about B-roll, I usually use this plugin for my B-roll. My A-roll is what it is. I have dialed in the exposure, dialed in the lighting in my studio, and I have a custom LUT. Let me know down below in the comments if you're interested in this custom LUT. It's what I'm using right here, right now. And that's what I use that for. I throw this LUT on and call it a day with my A-roll. But then when it gets into the B-roll, that's when the real fun happens with this plugin and ultimately color grading as a whole. So the first goal is to get a shot that I can color grade. I want something that brings out a lot of colors, that you're able to take the S-Log3 look and pull as much information as you possibly can out of it and really make it look like it's shot with film. And that's where this shot comes into play. This is right outside of my studio, right outside the window, and it's a shot that I get to look at every single day when I'm in here shooting, in here editing, and just creating content and coming up with ideas all together. So right away you have the camera input. So right away you're able to choose the source. So when you choose your own camera, you're able to choose the vendor, Sony, the camera line, which is the FX3, and then the format you're using, which I'm spitting S-Log3 out of this, so that's what I choose. From there you get your 709 overlay. The next up is the film developer. And this gives you control of contrast and color from the grade you apply from the camera. I usually tend to bring the contrast down and give it more of a soft, dull look. So as I take it from S-Log3 and move it to 709, I sort of move it back a little bit to give it some of that yellowish, dull look. And then film. This is where the fun really begins. From Cinestill to Fuji to Kodak film, you have so much flexibility to simulate a lot of classic film looks. My favorite in my films so far has been the Porta 400, the Cinestill 800T, and the Kodak Gold 200. I've tried tons of them, but I always come back to these for my B-roll, and it could be that these are the film rolls I like to use with the film recipes in my Fuji. Next you have color head, and this lets you control individual colors in the shot, and from those colors you can control the strength of the shadows, the midtones, and the highlights. And then you have the film grain. Within the film grain, it gives you that slight amount of noise you see in high ISO situations, or just from vintage cameras altogether. I always add some, since it adds sort of a nostalgic feel and softens up the shot quite a bit, mimicking that film look. And like I said, these cameras spit out a real sharp image, but sometimes you just want to dial it back and soften it up. Next is halation, and this adds a foggy RGB around the edges of the subject. And this again is just another piece of nostalgia that is built in within the scene. And there's ways to do this within Davinci Resolve and the color grading aspects of that, but when you can just do it with one button and one click, it's pretty fun, and it creates sort of a moody shot. And then blooming. Blooming's something I did early on when I did not have a mist filter on my camera, but I do have a mist filter on my camera. It's about a 10% black mist filter, and it creates a softer image. It blooms the lights, as you can see behind me, and creates that feel. But sometimes you want a little bit more, and that's where blooming within Dehancer Pro comes into play. And then film damage. It is what it sounds like. It's when you see those old Super 8 films and there's particle specks and just chaos altogether. This is one where you really have to choose if you want it, because it ultimately affects the shot a lot more than these other effects, and you really notice. So this is one that it's a pick and choose. If you're going for this type of look, you're probably gonna have this type of look throughout your entire film and not just pieces here and there. And then you have the monitor settings, which ultimately brings into like what a cinema camera has to offer. You have clipping, which shows zebras, and it's a guide to watch for specific exposure values being reached and passed. And then you have false color, and I'm a big fan of false color. I have it on my Atomos. False color gives you a visual representation of exposure values of the entire image in a set of colors. So with these colors, you can see when stuff is overexposed, when stuff is not overexposed, when light's hitting in a specific way, and you can really just dial in your look. So this is how I've been able to get into the weeds with my footage and create a soft, unique look that I'm going for and create that film nostalgic look. If you want to try Dehancer Pro for either Final Cut Pro, Premiere Pro, or Davinci Resolve, there's a free download to do so, and you can try it out. After that trial, if you want to buy it, use my discount code Joseph10 to receive 10% off the purchase. With that, leave a comment down below if you want me to release my S-Log3 LUT I use on all of my A-roll, and if you enjoyed this video, and also leave a comment if you want me to go more in depth on how I color my stuff. So with that, make sure you hit that like button, hit that subscribe button, and I'll see you guys in the next one.